Sarah Williams is the subscription box queen. She's brilliant at growing your customer base and community, and she's a best-selling author.
If you have a product-based business and you don't have reoccurring revenue in that product-based business, you're leaving money on the table.
Welcome, movers and shakers. Thanks for joining in with us. We're all here to learn, get better in our life and on our business. We all have our goals, our objectives. We want to do better. And I think that's why I spotlight top entrepreneurs who tell us about their journey to success. I call them elite entrepreneurs. As you know, these people, they pushed and they pushed. They refused to give up, and they made something great for themselves. And of course, part of being successful is to have a big customer list, a big customer base, lots of clients and so forth. Isn't that what we all want? I know it's all about having abundance. That's the real key to success, especially in the world that we live in today. And this is a big part of it. So even if you do it one at a time, your business is going to grow. And here's someone who built her empire one box at a time. I'm going to tell you about growing your community with Sarah Williams. And while we're at it, this is all about helping you and your friends move on your journey to success. We want to help you get very successful, and we're going to turn you into an elite entrepreneur. Sarah Williams is the subscription box queen. She's brilliant at growing your customer base and community, and she's a best-selling author. Sarah, we're all looking forward to learning about growing our customer base and our community. And you are the subscription box queen. You're very well known in your circles. Let's take it back a step. How did it all start for you? What's your
my backstory is that I started a little brick and mortar gift shop about 11 years ago in my local hometown. I had been working for a series of large companies after I went to college, got a master's degree, got out in the workforce, and I worked for several companies. 3 companies in a row that I worked for filed for bankruptcy, and I was laid off 3 times in a row. And at that point, I decided it was time for me to take my future into my own hands, and I started my own business. And I really started small. I didn't even dream that it could be what it has become today, but it was just something. I had little kids at the time. I wanted to be able to be home at night, not work 6 days a week like I had been doing for these Fortune 500 companies, not be stressed out all the time, and just do something that I really loved. So I started a little gift shop. It was a lot of handmade, hand-painted things, and I did a lot of personalizing. And so with that gift shop, I kept selling out of things, which is a great problem to have, but I was really small in my town. I live in a town of about 100,000 people, which is a nice sized town, but it's not a metroplex. And but one Christmas, my little 600 square foot store had a line wrapped around the building because only about 6 or 7 people could come in and shop. And I knew then that something had to change. Like I really found a niche. I was the only place in town that you could go and have something personalized, something monogrammed, something with your name on it. And so I really found this really small niche that I could dig into. After that Christmas, I moved into a larger shop. I had about 3,000 square feet in my new store. It was amazing. I was teaching some classes out of the back in my little studio, and that really grew. And something that I had thought about for about 18 months prior was I really wanted to start a subscription box. This is like 2016, 17. Really, the only people that were doing subscription boxes back then were big companies. And so I thought, how is this little small town business owner going to start a subscription box? I wasn't even online. I was just a local brick and mortar store. So I put it out of my brain. I just did what I knew how to do. And I had a great store. And then my web developer came for his annual visit. We sat down, we went through my website, and my website was only, here's my location, here's my store hours, here's my store phone number. I wasn't selling anything online. And I just really blurted out at the end of that meeting, I want to start a subscription box. And he was like, what does that mean? And so I was explained to him that I wanted to be able to deliver a box of goods to a customer, and I wanted it reoccurring, and I wanted to set it up that it would deliver every single month and that it would charge every single month. But I didn't know logistically how to do that. And he was like, well, I can set that up for you on the back end. If you know what you're going to put in it, we could launch this in 90 days. And I was like, let's do it. And so I started the subscription box, and I really started it because I saw this need from my local customers. I would have a customer come in, and the frequency was about once a month. So I would see the same customer coming in my store about once a month. They would buy something for themselves. They would buy a gift for someone else. And so I thought, how could I take that customer that comes in every month and deliver a VIP experience for them? Like, make them the VIP of my business. Give them something exclusive, give them something that they don't see on the shelves, and really make them the VIP of my business. And that's really how I started my subscription box.
That is absolutely phenomenal. And from a gift shop, a little store, to doing that, it's it's quite a jump. It's actually scary, and you did it. And not only did you do it, you became very, very successful at it, as we're going to go over to a minute. But there's one more leap, one more facet, one more step on this, and that is you went from doing that successfully and growing that, but then you decided somewhere along the line to help other people do it. So I'm curious, where did that vision come in? How did that play in? Is like, hey, I can not only do this for me, I'll show other people how
So
to do
when
it.
I
So how
launched
did
the
that happen?
subscription box, I had 44 subscribers. That was my first launch. I didn't even know how to launch a product online. And most of those subscribers were local anyway. So maybe there was one that wasn't local. But I went from 44 subscribers to almost 3,000 subscribers within about 18 months. So you can see this rapid growth that I am going through. And I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's going on. I'm barely keeping up with the customer service that's involved in having 3,000 monthly subscribers. I'm barely keeping up with the people coming in the door. I'm having to hire people like I've never hired before. I was a solo entrepreneur for forever. Like, I ran the register, I made the things, I shipped the things, like I was all of that. So now I'm really having to push the gas on figuring out how to turn this very small business into a big business. And through that process, people were watching me and they were like, how did you do that? Where did you get your packaging? How do you buy from overseas? How do you do this? How do you do that? And so it became this like, pick your brain. Can I pick your brain? Can I take you to coffee? I don't have time for any of that, Tony. I am so busy. I can't even keep up with myself. And so
Oh, but we always have time for a
I
coffee.
didn't.
Come
I
on.
was trying to figure out how I was going to serve 3,000 customers when I only had 44 like the year before. So it was one of those things that I just started like answering some of the DMs. I didn't want to be not helpful. Like, I'm a servant leader. I serve people. That's who I am. I'm a nurturer. I don't know if you're an Enneagram, but I'm an Enneagram 4. And so like, I am very much a nurturing person. I want to help people. That's just my nature. So I would be in bed at night answering the DM saying, oh, this is how I did it. This is how I did it. And then I had one of those people say, can I hire you for some consultation so that I can launch my subscription box in the next 3 months? And I'm like, hire me? Like, I'm not somebody you just like, what, how do you even do that? Like, what does that even look like? And so I let her hire me for like the cheapest amount. She got the best deal of the century on Sarah Williams, but I helped her once a week. We would jump on a call and I helped her build her subscription box, and she launched it, and she launched with 100 subscribers right out of the gate. And I was like the proudest mom that you could ever be. And I thought, this is it. I'm meant to do this. I love to help people. And the feeling that I got from helping her and watching her succeed, I knew I wanted more of that. I didn't know what that looked like at that time, but I knew I wanted more of that. I'm figuring out the e-commerce business that's running. I've got enough employees to help me. I start to dig into this. Can I write a course? Can I create a membership? How can I teach people this? And I knew I wanted to teach one to many, because I knew just from having my subscription box business, that was the goal. Fulfilling one order at a time took so long, but fulfilling 1,000 orders that were the same at a time was where it was at for my e-commerce business. So I just applied that to the coaching part. And I was like, I'm going to build a membership. And everybody that had been in my DMs asking me questions, I sent them all a message saying, hey, I'm going to start this thing called Launch Your Box. I have nothing built for it yet. I'm going to take 20 people and I'm going to build it out with you over the next 6 months. It's this price. If you'd like to be a part of it, send me a reply. And I got 19 people to go all in with me. And I spent the next 6 months working with them and building out content for what now is Launch Your Box. Then I launched officially to the public. And I had to build a whole new audience, Tony. Like, I had people that liked cute monogrammed things over here. And then I had people that had small businesses. So it was a separate audience. And that was hard for me because I had been building this audience over here for 7 years. I had to start from scratch over here because it was a completely different person. And that was like watching grass grow, honestly. It was the hardest thing to start all over with, building an audience. But I knew what worked. Like, I'd gone through this before, just in a different industry. So I knew I needed some opt-ins. I knew I needed a low dollar offer to get people into my pipeline and help me pay for Facebook ads. I knew that I had to build some social media accounts and get some content that people could consume and implement so they got a win from it. And I slowly started to build that. And my first launch, I got 100 members. And then I launched 3 months later again, and I got 400 more members. And then I launched again 4 months after that, and I got 1,400 new members. And within 1 year, I had a six-figure recurring monthly revenue in this new coaching business. And now I was a business coach. And now I had to hire people for this part of the business because I had a community that I had built that needed me, but I was 1 to 1,600 people. And I had to figure out how I was going to deliver this content. Delivering physical content was my sweet spot. That was my jam. I knew how to do that in my sleep. Delivering digital content, speaking, teaching, figuring out what they needed from me, that was different. And I had to figure that out. So that's how I started the coaching business.
Phenomenal. We're talking about growing your community with Sarah Williams, and you can find her at launchyourbox.com. That's launchyourbox.com. Sarah, you talked about your purpose and why you did it, which was kind of woven in there. I really liked that. It was like you could have directed these inquiries other places, but you had this, you have this passion to help people to see that they succeed. And I see that as a foundation to your success here. And I want to drill down a little bit more now into your vision path. Again, we're entrepreneurs, we're business owners. Please help us learn. So let's start here. Is this something possible for most businesses? I want to make sure that that's understood. And I'm talking about creating a subscription for their customers. Do you think that applies to a
Yeah, I
lot of
think
businesses
that
today?
really any type of business can create a subscription box. What we saw in 2020 when the world started to shut down was this convenience factor. You could have food delivered to you. We even had margaritas delivered to us in Texas. Like, you could have everything delivered to your door. And that was something that not a lot of people at that time really did. Like, we would go to the grocery store and walk the aisles and pick up our groceries. Now we have them delivered. Now we do grocery pickup. Now we have Instacart bringing them shopping for us. And that really sparked in 2020. So what also happened during that time was this rise of subscription boxes because it was this convenience factor. You didn't have to be online and snag the thing when it became available. If you were a subscriber, you automatically got that thing. It was delivered to your door like clockwork every single month. And people got used to that. And it was something that people needed during that time. And you can see this big spike in my subscriber base in 2020 because people needed something to look forward to. They needed something to show up at their door when they couldn't go shop. When shops were closing down, mom and pop stores were closing all across the country because they couldn't sustain the closure. And my little mom and pop store was shut down as well. But I had this subscription and it allowed me to keep all my employees on staff without having to sell a thing because that That payment was coming out like clockwork of their account into mine, and I was delivering that box still. Yes, I was packing them at home because I wasn't allowed to be in my shop, but it didn't stop. And I didn't have to show up and sell to people in a time where it was really hard to sell to people. It was already sold. So when you look at businesses right now, if you have a product-based business and you don't have reoccurring revenue in that product-based business, you're leaving money on the table. So whether that's an auto ship, whether that's a subscription box like mine, I even have a t-shirt club of the month. That's one of my subscriptions as well. Like, there are so many things that you can do in a product-based business to get that reoccurring revenue. And if you have a product-based business, you know that it's feast and famine. It's up and down. Like, if I show up and sell something today, I'm going to have sales. If I don't feel good tomorrow and I don't sell anything, I'm not going to have sales. But that rent is due whether you have sales or not. So this really stabilizes your business. And for me, my big goal with that subscription box was, if I could get 100 subscribers, all my overhead was paid for. My rent, my utilities, and the one employee that I had at that time was paid for. And then anything I sold in the store, that was the bonus. And so that was my big goal, was to get 100 subscribers. I did not know that within 9 months I would have 1,000 subscribers. I had no idea. That was not on my radar. I wanted 100 subscribers just to stabilize my business. So product-based business, yes, you can have a subscription like this. I also have members that have digital subscriptions. So if you teach something, like I have hand letterers, I have artists, I have crafters that teach projects, that teach how to letter, that teach how to do the macrame and all the things. Like, they have memberships and they have a subscription box component to their membership. So they have the digital part and they have the physical part. Some of them sell them as one together. Some of them sell them separately. So you can be a part of the membership. Oh, if you want the kit that goes with that every single month, you can have that as well.
Sarah, what kind of training do we need to be able to put together a subscription box for our program, for our customers, whether we have a physical store or we have digital products? Like, I believe you have some classes or courses on
Yes, I
to
have a
teach that sort
membership.
of
I actually
stuff.
have two memberships and a mastermind. I have Launcher Box. It's kind of the entry level. It's the entry level part of this. And so they come in. These are either people that have maybe started their subscription, but just feel like they don't know what they're doing, that they can get in and get started. Or these are people that are like, I want to start a business, but I don't know where to start. So we go through audience building. Like you talked about that in the opening. That's the very first thing that we have to do. We have to start figuring out who our ideal customer is and start building an audience, building a following, and building a list. So that's the first place that I want to take you when you come in the membership. And then we've got to dig into the logistics, the product, the packaging, the fulfillment, the shipping. And so once we start building our audience, because we've got to get busy with that first, because we need at least a 90-day window of building an audience if we're starting from scratch. If you already have an audience, you could launch a subscription box within 30 days and be on the way to growing that. But we want to start with the audience. We want to build our following and our list. Then we want to dig into the logistics and understand that. And that's kind of the hardest part for people to understand. And that was the hardest for me to understand when I was starting my subscription box. I didn't know how. I had never shipped an order ever because I was just a brick and mortar store. People walked in and they left with their stuff. I'd never even shipped anything. So I had to figure all of that out. And then when you get to the point where you've got thousands of subscribers, that fulfillment looks different. That shipping looks different. And so it's learning those pieces. And as you're growing and scaling, how does it change and what do you need to do differently? I also outline pre-launch, launch, and post-launch activities. I'm going to teach you how to launch your subscription box because that's very, very important. And then what you should be doing post-launch to prep and retain your subscribers, because retention is very, very important in our industry.
Sarah, I can tell that this is second nature to you. You just said, hey, how about a subscription box system? And it was like, boom. But for some of us, it might take a little bit more work. For example, how do we, aside from what do we give and for how much we give, let's just say we get past that. Then it's a matter of, well, The only way or the only place I know is social media, but it takes a long time. I know for a fact I built my social media, but it took years to get it to a very large size. If someone's coming out with a subscription box system, it's going to take time to put this together. So how do we build our community um, so that people know what we have and are aware of what we have in the amount of numbers that we need, let's say, to sustain ourselves and to
Well,
to make it a
people
nice
think that you need
business.
to have a large audience to sell to. And that's not necessarily true. And I would take a lot of my members as examples for this. If we have the right people in our audience and not just anyone in our audience, that is what's going to make the sale. I just did a podcast episode recently with one of my members, Amanda. She was just on YouTube. She would go on YouTube and she would get out her planner, and she had made these stickers on her printer, computer and printer, and she would print them out, and she would do this planner party with everyone watching, and she would show people how she used these stickers to, set up her planner every single month. And she did this every month. She wasn't selling anything at that point. She was just showing up on YouTube and she was planning out her planner. And people are like, "Where did you get those stickers?" And she's like, "I made them." And like, "Well, can you sell them?" And she was like, "Okay." So she started selling sheets of stickers. Okay. And then it got to the point, how do we get these every month? And that's when her idea for her subscription box came. She had 300 YouTube subscribers, 300. And she sold out of her first 100 subscription boxes on her first launch. She didn't need 3,000 people in that audience. She had 300 of the right people that were watching her planner, that were interested in what she was doing. And that's how she sold her first 100 subscriptions. Later that year, she was able to retire her husband from his job. They have their own warehouse now. And it's incredible how her business grew, but it started with 300 people. And that's what we have to really hone into. We have to pick a niche. So a lot of times, and when I watch Shark Tank, they like, "Go broad. You need to be broad. You need to be for more people." I tell you the opposite. You got to go niche. You got to niche down into something very specific so that you can find your perfect person. And that's exactly what I did with coaching too, because I could have taught people how to start a brick and mortar store. I could have taught people how to start an e-commerce store. I could have taught people about Shopify, WooCommerce. I could have taught you how to source products. I could have taught you all kinds of things. But I said, no, I'm going to niche down and I'm going to only be for subscription boxes. I'm going to teach people how to start subscription boxes, and I'm not going to cloud the message with all these other things that I can teach you. I'm a marketing genius inside my membership, but I'm not even telling you that I'm going to teach you marketing. I'm going to teach you how to start a subscription box business. And when I niched down, that's why I had so many members my first year. My messaging was the same. My graphics were the same. Everything lined up with someone that wanted to start a subscription box. And I was able to really find my perfect person. I had more paying members in my membership by the end of my first 12 months than I had followers on my Facebook page. So I had 1,600 paying
Amazing.
members and I had almost like 1,000 followers on my Facebook page. I didn't need a big audience. I had been building my email list and I had been building my following, but that email list plus the following is what converted into such a high conversion rate during that launch. And so I don't I don't want people to get tripped up with thinking they have to have 50,000 followers, 100,000 followers, 500,000 followers. I don't want people to think that, because that's a hard thing to get to. Tony, you and I both know that. But I'm sitting here telling you, I have about 25,000 followers on my e-commerce page, and I have done multi-millions of dollars worth of business. I don't need 100,000 followers to have 3,000 subscribers. I have the right people, the people that love monograms, that people that love those subscription boxes, and the people that love to show up live with me every Thursday as I sell stuff in my shop. And that's all we need. We have to find the right person.
I love it. What a great takeaway. Now I want to switch a little bit. You have a book called One Box at a Time. I think It's a lot of what we've discussed here, but I'm sure there's a lot more to it. Let me kind of ask it this way. Sarah, what can we
So
learn
I
from your
have
book?
basically taken my entire membership and my story, and I have condensed it into these chapters of this book. So basically, every chapter is a leg of my journey, and it's also the teaching points of how I got to the next step. So you're going to learn how I started the subscription box, and then what I did next, and here's what you need to do. And then here's what happened when I did that. Here's what you need to do next. So it's a story of Sarah's journey, but it's also the entire membership condensed into one great book, because I'm teaching in my membership exactly how I built my subscription box from 44 subscribers to thousands. And every chapter, I have 1 to 2 stories of one of my students that are particularly good in that action step of that chapter. And so I'm featuring their stories in a different industry, in a different niche, and I'm telling you how they did it. It might be in a different way that I did it, so that you can understand that it's not a one size fits all. I'm going to give you the blueprint. I'm going to give you the whole roadmap. This is exactly how I did it. And so many of my students do it exactly the way I do it, because I teach them that. But here's a different spin on it. Here's how someone else did it in the pet industry. Here's how someone else did it with fresh flowers. Here's how someone did it with a bakery. And so everything that you can think of, I'm featuring that in the book as well.
I like that. And I noticed one of your chapters is called Cultivate
Yes.
Community. Sarah, let's discuss some
I think it's
strategy on
super
this.
important, as small business owners. We have this superpower to just be ourselves and to really build a community around who we are. Big brands don't have that power. And so it's something that I teach my members to really lean into. And it's really hard for some people to be the face of their brand. They don't want to do it. I battled a lot of self-doubt myself. Like, I'm older, I'm overweight, I'm not tan like all the young girls. Like, I had all this self-doubt, like, who would want to show up and watch me? And I had to overcome that. And I had to say, I went to look for influencers, right? Because that was the thing back in, 2019. I was going to find me an Instagram influencer to wear my things, open my boxes, and just be, the face of the business. And everybody that I found was in their 20s, super tan, super young, super cute. And I was like, my customer doesn't look like that though. They're moms. We're in our 30s and 40s. We got a few love handles. Like, we don't look like that. They're not going to be able to relate to them. And it was this feeling that I had that I was the influencer of my business, because my
Ooh,
customer
I
looked
like
like
that.
me. My customer was me. They were a mom just trying to get their kids off to school every day and take care of life. And I knew that because I had the brick and mortar. I got to see them in person. When they walked through my door, I knew who they were, and I knew they wouldn't relate to someone like an Instagram model. And so I decided that I was just going to be me. And it was hard at first. I felt like I had to be really prim and proper, really professional. And I would come on and I was scripted and I was really professional. And I was like, one day I just said y'all. And I was like, oh, I said y'all. I thought saying y'all would make me look dumb. I am a Southern girl through and through, and that's who loves monogrammed items. And I was like, you know what? Over half of my subscribers are from the South. They say y'all all the time. I'm going to say it, and I'm not going to be embarrassed about it. That's how I talk. And so when I started to lean into kind of the hot mess person, mom that I was, like, let me tell you how I spilt my coffee all over myself this morning. I'm live and I'm just telling these anecdotes of what happened on the way to school, or how I locked my key in the car for that day, or whatever. It's like people could relate to me. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to be polished. And honestly, people prefer us not to be. They want to feel like someone like me that's like them can do this, they can do it too. And I don't have it all figured out. I wing it every single day. And I show up and share that. And so that nobody sits there and feels bad about themselves thinking there's this perfect person on the other side of the screen. And that's really how you build a community. You build a community of like-minded people. If I show up like myself, I'm going to attract people like me. If I show up like someone else, I'm not going to attract people like me. And people that liked my style liked my subscription box.
Amazing. Sarah, you're like a proud mom with this great big community that you've built. You're nurturing, you're providing, you're caring for them. You the and I understand what it takes to, in a way, not to build a community, but to build something from
Yeah.
hand by with your hands and have it grow and have it be big and just be so pleased with it, so happy with it. And I see that emanating from you. And this is like amazing in terms of some of the takeaways and the knowledge. And one thing we haven't discussed yet, and I want to make sure we touch upon it, is your community. Tell us about your community. You've told us a little bit. There are a lot of, or at least half of them are Southern, but tell us a little bit more about your
So that's my
community and what you
community on the
provide to them.
subscription box side. I have a community for both parts of my business because I think it's very important. So if you're an e-commerce or product seller, you need to build community with those people that are buying from you. You will have so much loyalty. My subscribers buy everything that I have for sale, not just their subscription box. They show up and watch me live every week. But when I started to build a community of entrepreneurs, that was where I really realized I was trying to give them a lot of tactical, actionable things to do. And I went through this stage where I realized that they're struggling with their mindset most of all. And so I really got to lean into who I was as a nurturer and someone that serves and be like, you know what? I've had self doubt too. I didn't want to be the face of my business too. I made a $10,000 mistake on sourcing too. And let me tell you what happened. I've had issues with shipping. Let me tell you how I resolved that. I've done this. And so I am just like fully transparent, and I am more transparent in the paid part of my membership than I am on my public free page. I'm very transparent on the public page too. I go live every Monday on the How to Start a Subscription Box Facebook page. It's called Monday Momentum. And I give them like a 15-minute little pep talk for their week. Like, hey, here's something I tried this week. You should try it too. It generated sales for me, and I give them some talk. Sometimes it's a mindset thing. I could see a comment or a post inside my community and I'm like, let's talk about it. Let's talk about cancellations for the month of January. January is the worst month for subscription cancellations because everyone's, doing their New Year's resolution. Let's talk about it. Let's work through it. Let's leave this call feeling like you know what your next step is. And so that's something that I do publicly. I do it on YouTube. I do it on Facebook. And when people can connect with you in a free space with our podcast, with our Monday Live, they're going to know that they're going to get so much more inside a paid community with you. And so Launch Your Box membership has a portal of pre-recorded videos from everything to audience building to launching. And they also have a Facebook community. And I show up every week in the Facebook community live, sometimes once a week, sometimes twice a week, depending on my schedule. And I give them value and I help them get unstuck with what they're working on. And I am very transparent. They relate to me because of me and the kind of business that I run. And I let them know it's okay to make mistakes. And I let them know it's okay to feel like unworthy or incapable, but let's get out of that because we're all worthy of that. And I let them know it's okay, but let's move forward. And so it's this constant mindset shift that I'm giving them. And it's a constant okay, here's our mindset shift. And now here's what I need you to go do to take action. And so I'm giving them the balance of, I just think 75% of being an entrepreneur has to do with our mindset. And really it's 25% of the things that we actually do, right? I think it's 75%. So I really try to show up and give them that. It's like that mom pep talk. It's like that coach, like, let's get in the game. Let's go. It's halftime. We're down by 10. Let's get up. Like, we got to finish strong. And I don't let them kind of wallow in despair. And I would tell you that 95% of my audience is women. And it is because they relate to me. Because I talk about being a mom. I talk about the things that I go through as a woman, and they can relate to that. And I want them to feel good about, you can be a mom and you can be a great mom and you can still be a hell of a business owner too. And you don't have to sacrifice one for the other. And I live that every day. And I share that with them, and I let them know that it's okay to feel inadequate in this area. It's okay to just get back on your feet, and you don't have to feel guilty about owning a business and trying to be a mom at the same time. And that's relatable to them. And that's why so much of my audience are women.
Totally, totally dig it on that. Mindset is so big because it's the difference between working for someone in a job, whatever hours, which I've done it for a long time, so I can say that the pay is
Yeah.
not usually very good, though it can be steady. It can create a little bit of a stability there, and it's very scary to go out and
Right.
sell something yourself or provide something yourself to be that entrepreneur. But we that are listening, most of us, we're familiar with that fear of, okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to go do this on my own because it needs to be done. We'll work more hours, but we have a lot more fun. Yes, we can, and we usually do make a little bit more than just working for someone. But it's scary. There's no doubt about it. Any endeavor is, and when you're an entrepreneur, and I'll say this personally, you've got something going. It's even scary to go add to the business or do something else because there's time, there's money, there's resource to it. But when you do it, you go, "Wow, that worked out." If it all came out. So I get all that, and I think mindset is so key on this. So now I'm just thinking with this kind of putting it all together. We didn't spend a whole lot of time, but there's so much knowledge here, and I'm thinking whatever kind of business I have to a degree, and of course we'll have to get your book, check out your lives. We can create something. We can
Mhm.
create something unique or add it onto our business, and I'm just thinking of any tips or advice on taking that next step and reaching out. Perhaps it's just as simple as, you know, go to your site, which is
Yeah.
launchyourbox.com, right? I said that right? And start there. But for people that don't have a subscription or don't have a community, or and when I say don't have a community, and anybody can get on social media and have a community, but I'm talking about a
Yeah.
like-minded community. I would love any tips or advice in closing on
I
growing that
do
and
have a free
starting that.
webinar if you go over to my website. It's called 6 and 60, and anybody can take it, but I really take you through the path of identifying your ideal customer. Who do you want to sell to? What are we creating this for? And then laying out like your first 6 months worth of like boxes. And if you don't even know what that is when you walk into that webinar, it's going to just bring so much to your mind because I'm going to get you to think about your ideal customer, and I'm going to get you to really think about what they're doing in each of these months and what you can provide for them. So if maybe you have, some service based business and you want to provide a physical thing, I'm going to get you thinking about what is your client doing in the month of March? What can we give them in the month of March that aligns with your business, that aligns with your client, that would serve them in some way? And so I'm going to take you through this exercise because I believe you can't even move forward, Tony, until you can lay out what this looks like. And that's probably what's in your mind right now as we're talking. Like, I don't even know what this looks like. I can't even imagine figuring out logistics because I don't know what this looks like. And so I help you lay it out. We use Post-it notes so that we can move them around and stuff, but I'm really giving you some brain dump thoughts in this webinar, and we're doing it together. And at the end of it, you get to lay out like, oh, this is what this could look like for my business. And if that means I'm starting from scratch, then okay, let's start by audience building. We know who we want to sell to now. We know what we want to do now. Let's start the process. If you already have that audience and we're just looking at building a subscription box onto that business, it's like, okay, I have the audience. Now let me get busy with the logistics. I got to figure out how to buy product. I've never bought that before. I got to figure out what packaging looks like. I've never done that before. And so I love to tell the story of I have a woman dentist in my membership, and she's a dentist. She doesn't buy physical products. She doesn't sell physical products. The most things that she's ever ordered were toothbrushes for her office, right? And she started a subscription box called The Brighter Life for Dentists, and it was for women dentists. And she really wanted women dentists to get something for themselves. She knew their mindset. She knew what they were dealing with. She knew what they would want. She was that ideal customer. And most of us in my membership are our own ideal customers. So we know what we're looking for. We know what we're thinking. We know what we're feeling. And so she was able to curate this premium subscription box. It was over $100 a month. She knew her audience could afford it. They were dentists, and she curated a special gift for them every single month that really spoke to who they are, what they do, and what they deal with every single month in their practices. And she was so successful with it, and she keeps growing, and she started a second subscription, and she's still seeing patients. But it was just something like that anybody can put together. You don't have to know the things. I'm going to teach you the things.
I love it. And I'm just logged on to your website, launchyourbox.com. And where do we
So right
find that
underneath the big
webinar? I'm
picture of
just
me at the
looking.
top, there's like these four little
It
pictures
says
underneath it. One of them says the 6 and 60 workshop, and you can click on that one.
curating 6 subscription boxes in 60 minutes. Free workshop. There it is. All right, you guys, these are the marching orders. Go to launchyourbox.com. Check it out. I'm going to do that because I've just started a Patreon,
Yeah.
which is a little bit different. It's more digital, but I'm going to see how I can apply, or what I can apply and how much I can
Yeah.
apply to something like a Patreon, which is digital. It's all about digital products, digital this, digital that, and we need digital. There are needs and requirements for that. So I'm going to take a good look at that. And let's see. So once again, we spoke with Sarah Williams. We talked about growing your community. She is the subscription queen. And a special thank you for those that listened to the end. And I just want to say, I love how Sarah took her vision to reality. And again, I'm anxious to apply this knowledge to my Patreon. And you can always go to patreon.com/Tony DUrso. And do me one big favor, guys. Share this with a few friends to help them too, all right? Let's use this and let's help you move on your journey to success. Sarah, once again, I want to thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate the takeaways and the knowledge. And I really hope that everyone here gets the same enthusiasm I do. I know it's not just because I'm Italian, because this was good stuff. So, all right. Thanks. Remember, just take action. Success awaits those who persevere and remain steadfast despite the odds. Sow good seeds, do good deeds, and join me on the next episode of The Tony DUrso Show.